Happy Monday, Husky fans. It's time for a mailbag.
You are Locked On Huskies, your daily podcast on the Washington Huskies, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back in to another edition of the Locked On Huskies podcast. I'm Roman Tomashoff. That's Lars Hanson. He's the site editor with Athlon Sports Inside the Huskies. I'm the site editor with Huskies Wire. Thank you for making this your first watch or first listen of the day, as we are part of the Locked On Podcast Network. And this episode is brought to you by LinkedIn, because these days every new potential hire can feel like a high-stakes wager for your small business. And that's why LinkedIn Jobs helps find the right people for your team faster and for free. You can post your job for free at linkedin.com/LockedOnCollege. Terms and conditions apply. So, Lars, we're going to have some fun today. It's time for a mailbag, as we wanted to make sure we, and just enjoyed our time, gave back to the everydayers over the course of the offseason, where we always appreciate all the input that everybody out there has. So we're going to start with something that came from about 1,000 different people. I'm just, a little bit on the high end there. I mean, there's no disrespect to anybody, because we obviously appreciate all the questions. I'm just going to read the one from Anthony Hale here, as it definitely encompasses just everything about all the questions people had. It says, I'm back at it again with the O-line question. The spring portal didn't have as many fireworks for the line as I wanted. There seemed to be large holes. How and when do they get filled? And do you guys see it as an issue yet? Lars, I'm going to let you go first here.
So it is an issue. It's an issue that I think we all knew was coming. It's an issue that in some ways is out of the coach's control, because when you go into the portal legally, you can't get coaxed in. You can't, the coaches, and I'm going to say this for transparency's sake, coaches can't, go hit up another kid on another roster and say, hey, we really could use you. Could you just enter the portal? And that's called tampering. So you can't try and get a kid who maybe, if your scouting department says, hey, you know what, we don't think you're going to play much at this school this year, why not come over here? You can't do that. And until you can, and I don't even think that's a good idea, but until you could have a little more free access to kids in terms of gauging their potential interest and doing what's right for the student athlete, you just have to deal with what's in the portal. And fact of the matter is, along the offensive line, there wasn't much in the portal. There was, and even from the beginning, when Marcus Bryant was good, Bryson Hickman was good, there's a couple other pieces that were there that were possibilities, but there wasn't any true gotta go get that guy. Gotta, throw 2X at NIL, whatever it takes to get him. But in that same vein, there was a number of guys that we've seen develop throughout the portal period where they either were at a former Power 4 school or were at a school, ended up transferring to either a JUCO or going a different route, where you're looking at a reclamation project, players that have potential, just haven't necessarily done it at the Power 5 or Power 4 level that could do that at Washington.
Absolutely. And so the first thing that I feel that we need to just make clear with this part is, and I know we were part of this as well, but there were so many rumors going around about everybody that was going to enter the portal. And for one reason or another, a lot of people decided not to, where there were rumors thrown around left and right, just from every school, coming from everywhere, people saying, oh, I know for sure this person's going to enter the portal. I say this person's going to enter the portal. And a lot of that didn't happen. For one reason or another, it didn't happen. There's no reason in rehashing it. There's no reason going back through it, but that's something that happened where, as I kind of just look around in there, I still think that, and I know, Lars, you and I agreed that the Huskies was looking to find a way to get 2 more offensive linemen. We're recording this a little early, as we wanted to enjoy a little bit of a 3-day weekend. So recording this a little bit early, and we wouldn't be surprised if Maximus McCree, the junior college transfer from Iowa Central, ends up committing to Washington. We know he's coming on an official visit at some point soon, and probably one other guy. There aren't a lot of names. They're kind of keeping him on the down low at this point of who might be visiting, what that might look like. But I still expect them to take 2 more offensive linemen in this class. And the 2025 is going to look really good as well. But Lars, as you said, you just kind of have to work with what you got. That's the problem, where that's why, we saw some of these, and I mean, it's just weird to talk about it in this light, but that's what it is, where players that, we think that they're going to get X amount in NIL. Oh, this person got 4 times that from, just throwing out an example here, Texas A&M. This person got 4 times that to go to Oklahoma, whatever it is, to go to Mizzou, where you can't control that. And even with Washington, we know that offers that were given out to some of these guys were competitive. That's all we're going to say on the matter, but they were certainly competitive. And is it disappointing? Yeah, absolutely. We got another question here that says, when does it get better? Where it's certainly frustrating. Let's say fall camp, because, once you get back in the flow of the season, there will be a lot of excitement for sure. But that's it. That's the fact of the matter, is you can only work with what you have. And if guys don't enter the portal, what else are you going to do? We got another fun question here from our guy. We're going to go to this one right here from our guy, Drew Campbell, who always just has fantastic questions. He just says, are there any sort of updates you can give about the 2025 recruiting class? So we're going to take this a little bit of a different direction. Lars, we're each going to give 3 crystal ball predictions of guys we think will end up at Washington in the 2025 class. I've got 3 that I'm just going to rattle off real quick that I think they've got good relationships with. I'm going to say 4-star wide receiver Chris Lawson ends up as a Husky. 4-star edge rusher CJ May. That's going to be one of my big bold ones. And I got so many fun ones here. I'm going to leave the offensive line stuff to you, because I know you had the big bold prediction of Douglas Utu a couple weeks ago. 4-star safety Ladarian Clardy. I'm going back to the well there. I like the relationships that the coaching staff has developed with those 3 guys. So I'm going to go with those 3 for right now and say they end up jumping in the boat at some point.
I like that. So I'll do 2 plus 1, because I still think Utu is at this point probably the next offensive lineman to come off the board. That's just my opinion. That's my opinion, my speculation. That's not, I haven't talked to him, so I'm not, this isn't sourced anyway. I do want to make that clear, but I do think there's some clear interest there. I'll go, I do like the ones you picked. So give me Cyrus Paulo, because I do think he could end up being a Washington.
I like that. Yeah. 3-star linebacker.
That's one out of 3-star linebacker out of Utah that the Arizona, he had a prior relationship with the staff at Arizona. That's one from the beginning where I know we've talked that they're going to take 3. That's an easy take right there, but could also take more.
Sorry, I just have a bonus one here that I got to throw in, because I can't believe I left this one out. Somebody who I have talked to, and somebody who is, and I'm quoting him here, is really, 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 really high on Washington. 4-star linebacker Christan Thatcher. That's another guy that I want to throw in there as a bonus.
Oh, I was going to say, I was a little surprised you left that one off, because
I'm disappointed in myself, truly.
I'm going to let you circle back to that one, so I'm glad you took that. But my other 2 plus 1 would be, I'll take this. Are we saying the next 3 to commit, or just like 3 in general?
3 in general.
Okay. Give me another offensive lineman, Darius Afalava, because I think that could be one along the interior that shores up. And I love your Chris Lawson one, but I'm going to go another way with that for our other show, and I'm going to say Phillip Bell.
Okay. I like that. So this one, Lars, you and I, we got into a pretty heated debate on this one before the show, so we don't need to spend a lot of time on this one because it's kind of tough, but it's a great question from our guy, DJ Quiddy, who says, we still need a 3rd quarterback. Any guesses on who that might be? And Lars, we were getting heated. We started getting into it here a little bit before the show started, but I feel that the one guy who we should keep an eye on here is Braden Dorman, where he doesn't have the profile that you and I have talked about in terms of having, 1-2 years of eligibility, some experience under his belt, but he's a former 4-star recruit who played at Arizona under Jedd Fisch, entered the transfer portal back in January. It doesn't look like he's found a home yet, but that's something where he's somebody who has a little bit of experience, but mainly the most important thing is he knows the system and he knows the playbook, which I feel is more important.
I agree. And the only thing that I just pushed back on that for transparency's sake was that 4 years, that 3-4 years left in the program with the amount of young quarterbacks you have. My opinion has always been this is either going to be a junior college 1 to 2 year guy, or potentially even just a straight up grad transfer. I would imagine it's a 2-year player because you want to have somebody still on the roster after Will Rogers graduates. So give me, I'm not proud of this, but I'm going to say one of Carson May, who was a one-time Washington target under a previous staff, and a former Big Ten quarterback, Deacon Hill.
I like that. Lars, we got so many more fun questions to get to. And we'll get there right after a message from our good friends over at LinkedIn, because when you're hiring for your small business, you want to find quality professionals that are right for the role. That's why you have to check out LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn Jobs has tools to help find the right professionals for your team faster and for free, because LinkedIn isn't just another job board. LinkedIn helps you hire professionals you can't find anywhere else, even those who aren't actively searching for a new job but might be open to the perfect role. In any given month, over 70% of LinkedIn users don't visit other leading job sites. So if you're not looking on LinkedIn, you're looking in the wrong place. On LinkedIn, 86% of small businesses get a qualified candidate within 24 hours. You can hire professionals like a professional on LinkedIn, because LinkedIn knows that small businesses are wearing so many hats and might not have the time or resources to hire. And that's why 2.5 million small businesses use LinkedIn for hiring. You can post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockdowncollege. That's linkedin.com/lockdowncollege to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. Lars, shout out to the Everydayers, man. They did a really, really great job throwing a lot of really fun questions at us for all this. And Batista Bomb, who always comes at us with some really good questions, has a fun one here. It says, do you guys feel like Adidas is doing a good job as the gear sponsor? Not going to lie, kind of wish we had Jordan brands so we could get some UW Jordan player exclusives like Michigan has. Hey, first of all, as a shoe guy, 100% agree with that. But I also do like Ultra Boost. I think they're very comfy. I would, you know what? I'm going to let you go first here.
I think Adidas could be doing better, but I don't think it was as bad as what Washington had under Nike a few years back in terms of the publicity. Yeah. When you look at, and this somewhat goes in tandem with the roster that was already constructed, but the Adidas partnership with Michael Penix and Roma Odunze last year, that was massive. That to me, now I agree that maybe some of the gear could look better, and people have their own opinions on jerseys.
There could be more.
Right. I certainly, and that's why I think they could do more, but I would give them like a B grade in terms of, it's not a C plus, because that's kind of insulting. So I'd say a B, just a solid B, not a B minus. Just give them a solid B. It could be better, but it's nowhere near as bad as what it was under Nike.
So this is really odd, because we didn't rehearse that beforehand. I also had a grade in mind. I was going to give them a 7 out of 10. So it's I'm glad you went there. Yeah, where that's a big thing. I really like certain Adidas gear, as somebody who, and anybody who follows either of us really on Twitter knows how I'm a big shoe guy. Have a whole lot of pairs of Nikes, Jordans, etc. And I really do like some Adidas gear. We went to Portland last weekend, and I got some nice stuff from the employee store. I was disappointed to see that there wasn't a whole ton of UW gear down there, or any college gear really. So it's something that I don't feel is just a Washington issue in a certain sense, that Adidas could be doing a better job just with really pushing some of their college gear as a whole. I think is a big thing. So there's a whole lot of that I feel plays into this as well. But that being said, yeah, I agree. There could certainly be some more gear. And I know some of it is a little confusing with just the Nike sponsorship when it comes to the college football playoff. So it's a very interesting debate that could certainly be hashed out for a whole long period of time.
Yeah. I still can't believe you wore that Nike hoodie on the podcast. That was incredible.
The one that said Sugar Bowl on it. Yeah. So here's a good one. Shout out to the Everydayers. We appreciate comments of all shapes and sizes, truly. Coke greater than Pepsi's got a good one here. Position group that you think is the most underrated going into the fall.
Ooh.
Do you want me to go first? I've got.
Yeah, I'll let you go first, because I'm deciding between two.
Edge rusher. And like I saw this, and immediately I went edge rusher. So edge rusher is very inexperienced. We know this. The most experienced guy in the room is Voight Tanufi. We've seen what he's been able to do. But outside of that, it's a lot of projection. We love Zach Durfee on this program. All the Everydayers know how much we love Zach Durfee. And then outside of that, it's Maurice Himes, it's Lance Holtzclaw, it's Isaiah Ward, it's Russell Davis, it's Jaden Wayne, it's Jacob Lane. There are a lot of really, really, really talented projectable bodies. But one thing, and I know we keep coming back to this, that especially just from in my opinion, as somebody who is a huge Patriots fan, I know some of the Everydayers hate that, but I've watched Steve Belichick and Bill Belichick's defense for my entire life, and I have seen so many different edge rushers have success in it in so many different ways. And a lot of it is obviously thanks to their talent, but the scheme does such a great job of putting them where they need to be on every single play. And from guys that you and I have both talked to, that's going to continue this year. And I feel that while they're certainly untested right now, that we're going to get, into October and we're going to look up, because one of my bold predictions a couple of weeks ago was we're going to see 3 guys with 5+ sacks on this team. I really do believe that. And I think that this could end up being one of the more surprising pass rushes in the Big Ten.
So real quick, was it surprising or underrated? For the
Underrated.
For the question.
Underrated.
So for that reason, I'm going to say running back. And the reason why, because again, as we know, right, Jonah Coleman and the everydayers have heard us talk about how great that depth is. Cam Davis coming off the ACL, or coming off the ACL injury, right? It was an ACL or knee injury, lower body, whatever we'll call it. But came off the injury from last season. That's a question mark, because we know what Jonah Coleman can do, but combined with the offensive line issues, I'm going to let that just sit. So when you look at what that room has to deal with, Adam Muhammad's got some potential. Jordan Washington's got some potential. There's a lot to like about that room. They haven't necessarily, I guess they kind of did add a transfer in that room, but I'm just curious. That room has so much potential beyond Jonah Coleman. And that's why, because again, this is not about Jonah Coleman. We know Jonah Coleman's going to do his business, but in the Big Ten, you got to have number 2, 3, and potentially even 4 behind him, having a significant impact as well. And that room's got potential, and I don't think it gets talked about as much in comparison to some other ones.
Absolutely. So Lars, I'm having trouble putting these into the right order because we have so many fun questions. You know what? We're gonna jump around here, and we're gonna get to a couple of the fun ones where Tyler Browning here has got a good one. If you could join one group of these superheroes, which one would it be? The Avengers pre-Guardians of the Galaxy, the Justice League, the Guardians of the Galaxy, or the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles?
Oh, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. That's not even a question. That's not even a question. Are you
Expand.
Teenage Ninja Turtles. Like I'm thinking back. I'm thinking back to the younger, like a young me, because no disrespect intended to the people that do partake in that sort of thing. I have kind of grown out of that. I'll still go watch an Avengers if it's in theaters, and we got the whole friend group going. But for me, give me I love me a classic. Give me the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, please.
See, I haven't, but I would take the Avengers. No doubt. I think it'd be really cool. Like Spider-Man, getting to hang out with Tony Stark. Maybe I can get him to toss me a couple of bucks doing whatever. Captain America seems like just a great guy to be around me. And I feel, that there's the most potential for like good hangs in that group. And that's no disrespect to any of the other ones. Like, cause Green Lantern's my all-time favorite superhero. So there are so many different ways to put this. That it's tough. So this one Lars, I'm sorry, I have to steal the floor here because I have one that is specifically for me, and it's from our guy Rich Carrillo, who is an amazingly awesome, passionate everydayer who's loves to blow us up on social media with tons of great input. And he says, Roman, here is the Los Angeles City Section baseball playoffs. And just lists out the whole bracket here. I won't go through any of that. And he says, who do you think is going to win? And see, I've got to give a shout out to one of our new everydayers, to the one and only Miss Paige Waters, whose son Peyton Waters is a product of Birmingham High School, where I am also a product of. And I'm not trying to relive any sort of glory days here, because it's certainly not like, my top glory days, but I can't go anywhere else than the Birmingham Patriots, both mine and Peyton's alma mater, where I was part of the team that brought a city championship back to Birmingham, first time in 45 years in 2014. Shout out. I don't have the ring here in Seattle, but that's one that I certainly had to get to. And Lars, we got a great one here from the username Don Fish about NCAA football, but we're going to get to that one on the other side of the break. Right after a message from our good friends over at FanDuel, because it's winner take all time in the NBA and NHL, and FanDuel is giving you a shot to bring home a big win of your own. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. That's $150 to bet on spreads, money lines, player props, and more. You can visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and make every playoff shot count. FanDuel is America's #1 sportsbook. And like I do, because as the everydayers are listening to this, I'm going to be in St. Louis, Missouri, the home of the one and only Jason Tatum. Yes, I'm going to keep pushing him on this podcast because the Celtics are still kicking. They're still alive. They're still doing their thing. And it's wonderful to see. And if you want to bet on them to win the finals on FanDuel, you absolutely need to do that. Lars, this is so much fun. These are some of my favorite episodes because it's just always awesome to make sure we connect with all the everydayers and do just some of the stuff that has helped us get to the point that where we are. And we're so appreciative of that every single day. And so at the handle is at Don Pete 1991 asks prediction for who the highest rated players in NCAA football 25 will be. And I felt really bad because I wanted to give them an answer on Twitter, on social media, but instantly I came up with two different answers. So I'm splitting this one up. I wanted to make sure we had a lot of time to discuss this because I'm going to do a preseason prediction and a postseason prediction. Where preseason, my top three are going to be Will Rogers, Carson Bruener, and Jonah Coleman. Let's start there. Who are your three?
So we're talking specifically just for Washington, right?
Yes, just for Washington in NCAA 25.
Interesting. So should I take three different ones or should
take whatever you want. Take whatever you want.
Because so I'm going to agree with Jonah Coleman and I'm going to agree with Carson Bruener and I'm going to go Ephesians Prysock.
See, I like where you're going with this because Ephesians Prysock is one of the guys that I have in my postseason top three. And my postseason top three, and this is where I wanted to make sure we expanded, is Ephesians Prysock, Denzel Boston, and Jeremiah Hunter, where I think by the end of the season, and this is something, we've talked about it at length on the show, but it's something that I think is worth rehashing. And I mean, in fairness, once I start my NCAA 25 dynasty mode with the Washington Huskies, all of these guys are going to be 90 plus. And DeMond is certainly going to be in that ballpark as well. But I think that by the end of the season, we're going to see what Jedd Fisch's offense can do with these two guys. And Jeremiah is the one why I really wanted to make sure we talked about this because we've done our bold predictions. I know one of mine was 2,000-yard receivers, and I think it hinges more on Jeremiah than it does on Denzel Boston. But it's something where we've watched Jeremiah excel under poor to mediocre quarterback play at Gal for the last 3 seasons. And Will Rogers is certainly the best guy to help utilize Jeremiah's talents where he can throw him jump balls. He can get the ball into his hand quick. He can let him do a whole lot of things after the catch. So those are 3 guys I wanted to go with. And Don Fisch also wanted to make sure that he gave a shout out to Damon Williams in this as well, because Damon certainly deserves it. He says, my biggest hope for this game is that they include Damon Williams. If they accurately rate his speed, acceleration, and agility, he may be the best player in the game in a dynasty mode after a couple of years, which, yeah, I agree with that.
So 2 things on that. So I'll get my 3 and then I will comment on that because I haven't thought about that. My postseason 3, Javon Parker.
Oh.
Drew as a party.
Okay. I like this.
And Denzel Boston, because I was hesitant to put Denzel because I think again he's going to suffer from you haven't played a couple of the past season, so we're not going to have an accurate overall to start on you.
Yeah,
and I think Will Rogers could also be, and then I'm kind of just leaving Will off because I think he probably should be higher rated than he is, and that will also dictate during the season he could be a postseason guy as well.
So that's actually one of the reasons that I left him off my preseason top 3, Ephesians Prysock off my preseason top 3, where obviously you and I have both talked at length about how immensely talented he is, but it's something where I think that as good as he was last season and will be this season, he was still kind of in the shadow of Takario Davis, who was the one who got the all Pac-12 second team nod, where he got the honorable mention, which again, still speaks to his talent, but he was somewhat overshadowed. So I think it might take a little bit for some people to get him up to that. So one other guy that I feel would certainly make for one of those postseason ones that maybe not right away, but certainly down the line is Adam Muhammad. We're in the same vein of Damon Williams, where if he impresses and shows off that athleticism early on, I think that he's going to be a fun player to use as well.
I completely agree. And the one thing I wanted to add on that, where he asked if he hopes Damon will be in the game. Correct me if I'm wrong on this. The only way guys are not in the game is if they did not opt in.
That's correct.
To EA's licensing. I'm fairly certain Damon opted in. There seems to be a very small amount of guys that would want to not opt in, and I haven't heard anybody on Washington say they wouldn't. Now, to be fair, EA is marketing certain players, so Will Rogers came out and announced that he was opting in the very first day that it came out, that the news broke. So there's certain players that would be more marketable, but I think all the players are going to be there. Worth mentioning, yeah, probably won't have the accuracy and speed right initially, but just let Damon play as a freshman, and that'll get fixed pretty quickly.
Yeah, you'll get there. So there's another one here from Rich Carrillo. That's a really good question. Talks a little bit about the offensive line. So I'll come into the back half of this question. Over the past 2 seasons at Arizona, Fisch has rolled with a 30% rush, 70% pass mix. Rush 141 yards per game and passed at 313 yards per game. The Huskies may be able to get some tough yards on the ground. So I certainly agree with that last part there, where with the stable of running backs that they have, but I'm really curious to see how this offensive line plays out, because there's a lot, and this is the thing that we talked at the beginning of the show. There's a lot of talent all over the field at all the skill positions, but the biggest problem is, what are Big Ten defenses going to look like, and how are they going to attack this? Because if they just see, oh, this is certainly going to be a weak offensive line, we're just going to send a whole bunch of blitzes at her. Or maybe they don't even need to. They say, all right, we're just going to send 4, no, we can get home and drop 7 into coverage. Are you going to run the ball? I'm really intrigued. I think it might be a little bit more of a 60-40 split, but as time goes on, I feel that's the only way to be able to just be truly sure. But one thing we're certain on, and Lars, I'll give you a chance to expand, but one thing we're certain on is there's going to be a lot of quick passing in this offense.
No, you're absolutely right. And I think the thing to consider is, with all the skill positions, and even if you think about how they could use an Adam Maham and a Cam Davis, and even some of the younger guys, they all are about getting the ball in space and yards after the catch. So in terms of whether it's Will or Damon at quarterback, you just need 2.5 seconds to find a way to get those quick passes out, or even in a 50-50 jump ball. You don't need that much near the 15-yard line. You just have to get enough to read and make sure you want to go with the ball. It's going to have to come together, but I think the offensive line won't necessarily be as much of a concern. It still needs to be important, but if whoever is the quarterback, which I'm assuming is going to be Will Rogers, can just get the ball out quick enough, it won't matter.
Yeah. So Lars got one more here. Larry Moody's asking for any possible injury updates that we can give. I'll let you start there.
I don't necessarily know that there's any new ones. Obviously, Zach Durfee will be ready for the start of fall camp. Cam Davis will be 100% ready for the start of fall camp. I would suspect Kamori House should be ready for the start of fall camp. I don't see that being a lingering issue. Other than that, I don't necessarily
Memlar being ready for the start of fall camp as well.
Guard should be ready for the start of fall camp. He did get some work towards the end of spring camp. Landon is one where I just wouldn't count on. This is not against Landon, right? I would say for the betterment of his progression and long-term viability, if he plays 2 games this year, we're good. Just let him get in the system. And that's being friendly, right? Let him get in the system, let him really get more into the playbook, get fully healthy, because you have D'Angelo Titi Ali coming in this season at center, so you don't have to worry about forcing that this season.
Absolutely. So that's where I wanted to go with this. Was that's one of the reasons you took D'Angelo Titi, where you look at Landon Hatchett. His injury happened towards the end of December. His injury happened just before the team left to go down to the Sugar Bowl. So it's something where he's going to be at around 8-9 months in his recovery from something that usually takes about a year to get all the way back from. I know, with medical science advancing the way that it has, that it doesn't take necessarily as long for some of these guys these days, but he's somebody where Landon is so talented that you don't want to rush him back. And that's the biggest thing where, I know I've seen some of it on social media, and you have as well, where we look at Landon Hatchett and we see, he should be able to step right into the middle. I'm not so sure. And again, like you said, it has nothing to do with Landon's talent. It has nothing to do with that. It's, you want to be careful with that. And one thing that you and I are both well aware of is that the plan was for him to redshirt last year. And I remember, right around when we started the show, one of the first things that Ryan Grubb said to us was, I really trust Landon Hatchett. I wouldn't be surprised if he's in the mix. And we were like, oh, hold on a minute. We didn't necessarily see that coming, because he was really impressive and he did play really well in fall camp. Those things are certain. But at the same point, the plan was still formed a redshirt. And then Gard Memolar went down for the year. And Mateo Mele went down for the year. And all of a sudden, Julius Buelow missed an extended amount of time. Gieran Hatchett missed some time. And all of a sudden, you can't do that anymore. So it was to no fault of Landon's that he had to burn his redshirt last year. So if you have to use that this season, I don't think that's the worst thing in the world. And Lars, with that being said, thank you to all the everydayers for all these awesome questions. This has been so much fun. We love doing this. We're probably going to do one more a little bit closer to the end of the offseason before fall camp starts up, some point in mid to late July, around there. But until then, please continue sending us questions. We love to answer as much of these as we possibly can. It really does mean a lot to us to be able to do this. So with that being said, Lars, as always, thank you so much for being here. Thank you to all the everydayers for tuning in. We really do appreciate your constant support. We really hope you enjoyed just, these kinds of episodes where we get to just answer a lot of questions and have a bit of fun and talk about, why we like to be in the Avengers. And if you enjoy the content, please make sure you subscribe wherever you get your podcast, whether that's YouTube, Spotify, Apple Music, Amazon Music. We're there. We're everywhere. We're updating this channel with new content every single day. So please make sure you hit that like button on the video, click that little bell so you never miss when we post a new video. And if you have any questions, comments, concerns, anything like that, please leave them all down below. For your audio only, please leave us a 5-star review, as it all really does help the show out. Thank you so much for tuning in, and we'll talk to you on Tuesday.